I'm often accused of watching a load of old shit. Well, inevitably it has come to this. We are talking MONSTURD, a 2003 horror comedy directed by Rick Popko and Dan West. And yes, this is a low-budget monster movie that involves a huge killer turd that is going around and killing the townsfolk. What's the story? Doesn't even matter. Well, it's kind of like a Jaws template movie. We have a killer creature that was created by a company dumping kind of medical waste in the sewers, and this coming in contact with a serial killer that has formed this kind of hybrid creature, and it is now kind of killing locals in the town. Of course, this sort of small town has a big chili festival coming up, and of course there's a big tourist attraction, which of course makes people go to the loo more often, you might say. And it's up to the kind of the town sheriff and his deputies to try and figure a way to maybe stop this monster poop. What'll happen? You'll have to watch the movie and find out. So to say that you have to kind of like have your tongue in cheek with this one is somewhat of an understatement. What can we say that works in this movie's favour? Well, I guess it depends if you like gross out movies, because although this movie isn't really a realistic movie, and you can't really say, yeah, that's obviously, it genuinely looks like there's poo flying all around all over the place, the idea of it is still a little gross, and there's lots of instances where this poo is like dangling bits into people's mouths and it's like splattering everywhere, and the idea here that it's obviously poop is a little gross. And yeah, there's lots of kind of practical VFX here, and I will say even some of the kind of the practical VFX for the kind of like the gore scenes, and there are a couple, the kind of like maggots and decomposed heads and things, they're actually kind of quite good in a way. They're kind of fun, not particularly kind of realistic, but good enough, I would say, for, you know, I would say horror fans to kind of enjoy it. And the poop monster himself is constructed from, you know, practical kind of like measures effectively. And yeah, it kind of looks obviously kind of silly, but at the same time, I think, you know, for a poop monster, it kind of is what you'd expect, I suppose. So there's no kind of arguing there. And yes, this movie has got lots of jokes in it. It is a comedy, really. And this ranges from obviously a lot of like poo and fart jokes to sort of movie references from the likes of Predator, some of the music sounds that are obviously kind of like Predator style, Star Wars, and many others. So there's kind of lots of references here to, you know, genre popular culture movies and things like that. It does actually try to have a narrative. You know, we have this kind of this police and this kind of FBI agent. They're trying to kind of figure out what's going on, trying to kind of keep people safe. They use nappies and stuff as like armour and that to try and keep themselves safe from the poop monster. We have this kind of evil corporation and this guy who's created this kind of creature, wanting to study it and advance from it and things like that. So, you know, there is actually an attempt here to have a kind of a narrative. And like I say, it's kind of one of these films which takes the broad sort of storyline of Jaws, maybe adds a little bit of kind of Swamp Thing, and it's kind of like that's your basic sort of template for this kind of movie. So there is, you know, a story to kind of watch. That being said, I mean, admittedly, I think the narrative elements here, if you're watching it for this, are relatively limited, as you'd probably expect. And I do think this movie may have benefited maybe from being like a short in an anthology. That maybe it may have had a little bit more of a plop had it been like that. Because yes, the idea and the concept is kind of quite fun, but inevitably you feel like the concept is a little kind of stretched out over the course of a kind of feature-length movie, and as such the joke sort of gets a little bit old and stale as you kind of go on. There are a few kind of technical issues here. Obviously, it's a very low budget movie. My understanding is that this was actually filmed over like 2 or 3 years. Obviously a passion project for those involved, and obviously a very, very low budget. So, you know, we have to kind of be somewhat sort of give them some leeway, but nonetheless there are a few sort of technical elements here, audio sort of interference and things, and some of the kind of like the general quality isn't particularly strong. And again, this is a 2003 movie, probably filmed, you know, friends' kind of backyards and things like that. So bear that in mind. But yes, there is a few sort of technical issues, to be honest. And the acting, I think, is probably okay for this kind of level of event. It's all kind of goofy and silly and stuff. I do think some of the jokes, though, don't land. I mean, obviously humour is subjective, and horror comedy as a sort of concept here is a tricky one, because it is going to be down to a lot of your own kind of preferences and what you find funny. And as humour is a somewhat subjective taste, really, again, it's not everyone is going to find everything funny. And like I said, I think there are some jokes here that do work, but at the same time, I think some of these sequences are just, you know, too elongated and too kind of like repeating the same kind of style of gags and things like that. So yeah, it's the novelty sort of wears off, really. It's a very schlocky movie. This movie is kind of a little bit like, I guess, like the Toxic Avenger. So if you kind of like that, or Trauma movies, then you kind of may want to check it out. Is it a good movie? No, it's not a good movie. It's somewhat of an enjoyable movie. I think it would have been better as a short or in part of an anthology. I'll give it a 4 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.